Good morning, thanks for joining. Today we're at the Museum of Surrey and we're going to check out their Arctic Voices exhibit. Let's go and explore. The Museum of Surrey hosted the Voices of the Arctic exhibit, which was a way for guests to find out about the people and diversity of wildlife in the Arctic without having to brave the sub-zero temperatures. This Inukshuk is an Inuit waymarker which guides us to the exhibit. Guests learned more about what affects the Arctic climate and how the Arctic has an impact on our whole planet. Here's a display about the amazing animals that inhabit the Arctic region. This walrus skull is complete with tusks, which can grow up to 3 feet long. Here's a coyote skull and a muskox skull with unusual horns that they use for self-defense.
That's pretty cool.
This is a narwhal tusk. These tusks can grow up to about 10 feet long. When we were at Ye Olde Curiosity Shop in Seattle, we actually saw an oddity where a narwhal had grown 3 tusks at the same time.
A couple of Arctic birds, a willow ptarmigan, and the puffin.
This exhibit shows how only about 10% of an iceberg's mass can be seen above the water. The rest is lurking below. Let's take a peek in this polar bear den. And here's a collection of plants that can survive in the harsh Arctic conditions, including these Arctic poppies, which are the little yellow flowers down here. This display compares the size of different bear skulls, starting with the black bear and the grizzly bear, but by far the biggest is the polar bear. This display shows how massive polar bears can get. When standing upright, female polar bears can get up to about 8 feet tall. And one more comparison here of different types of bear claws. You can see that while the polar bears are larger animals, the grizzly have the largest and most ferocious claws. Here's a little exhibit about the sizes of different Arctic whales compared to a killer whale, including the beluga, the narwhal, and the gigantic bowhead, which can grow up to 60 feet long. While we're here, let's take a look at the permanent exhibit. This is the Surrey Stories Gallery. This is a Studebaker buggy. Studebaker is one of the biggest producers of horse-drawn carriages, beginning in 1852. They've continued producing the horse-drawn carriages all the way up until 1920. This is a historic stone survey marker from the 1860s, which was used to mark the areas of roads and properties. It's since been replaced by more modern markers. This is a 1916 Studebaker, which was used to transport passengers between New Westminster and Haney. If you can believe it, this Studebaker ran for over 725,000 kilometers and is still in working condition. This vehicle would have sold for $1,500 brand new in 1916. I learned here that in the early years, Surrey didn't even have a fire department. It wasn't until 1945 when Surrey purchased 3 crash trucks and 4 pump trainers, which were surplus supply from the federal government left over from World War II. This banner up here once hung in Elgin Hall, which was the oldest community hall in Surrey. This was painted by a local merchant in 1924. Local businesses and merchants could pay $20 to have their advertisement added to it. Here's a display of different record players and radios. Radios would have been the main source of entertainment prior to television. Families could sit down for the evening and enjoy a sports or news broadcast or listen to one of the many popular radio shows like The Shadow. And I always like seeing one of these cool player pianos. This section showcases some of the sports that would have been enjoyed in the wintertime, including skiing and toboggans. Here's a soapbox racer from the 1960s. At one time, Surrey hosted this as an annual event. This specific racer was sponsored by a local carpentry shop. Here's a collection of toys from bygone eras. We've got some Canadian logs, which I guess are the equivalent to the US Lincoln logs. Some classic porcelain dolls. Here's a blow football set. I don't think that would go over too well nowadays. Here's a classic erector set. This Mickey Mouse Viewmaster looks a little newer than some of the other toys here. And there's also a collection of wartime dolls and action figures. It says here that many of the toys that children played with were used to prepare them for the adult life. This is a Surrey buggy from the 1890s. If you believe it, the name is just a coincidence. It was actually ordered from Florida, not constructed in the city of Surrey at all. This buggy was pulled by Arabian horses and used to transport dignitaries. It also participated in a number of parades, fairs, and rodeos. And here's a collection of automotive relics, including this old-fashioned gas pump. This circular device on the right is an employee punch clock made by IBM, which was used by the BC Electric Railway Company. Thanks for exploring the Museum of Surrey and the Arctic Voices exhibit with us. If you like this video, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. And until next time, it's time to exit through the gift shop.